Hi, welcome to the Men Talking to Men podcast.
It's a podcast that does exactly what it says on the tin,
which is talking to men and their day-to-day experiences of life.
So if you enjoy the podcast and you like it, then please do send us a review, and 5 stars are nice. We do like a 5-star review on your podcasting platform, or any comments or feedback. Or if you've got any suggestions for guests, then we'll really be happy to hear them.
Or it could even be yourselves. We are open to everyone to sharing their experiences about what's going on for men and talking to other men about that. So please drop us a line and we look forward to hear from you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome, Andy. Thanks for being here.
Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for giving us a bit of your time. So it's just having a conversation, and let's share what opens up, your experiences of life, being a man and being a father, creating businesses, done many things in his life. Interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Why don't we just start with that, because it'd be interesting to know, your journey to this kind of spot, being sat in front of two idiots on a podcast. Yeah, just tell me about how you got to here.
How I got to here?
Yeah. How do you get to that seat right now?
That hot seat of coaching.
The hot seat. God, it's been a long journey, so I won't go into all the details. I actually had a long conversation about it all last night. So,
so it's fresh in your memory then?
Yeah, it's very fresh in my memory. Yeah. My journey. The conversation was, we were having, it was an event where we have deep conversations. And it's based on asking deeper questions than just superficial, sort of like the chit chat that you do. What's your name? Where'd you come from? What are you doing here? Whatever. You go into deep questions. What's your biggest fear, or sort of, what's your journey? The question was, how do you get here where you are today? So it's quite apt that you asked me the same question this morning. And as the answers are never the same 2 times in a row, I suppose I'll give you a very brief rundown of what we discussed. And it was based on several questions, one of them also being, what makes you weird? And I thought that was a great question, actually, what makes you weird? And anyway, so my story, how did I get to this chair where I am today, sitting in the middle of the countryside in Belgium? Born and grew up in the UK, and I think about the age of 19, I got itchy feet. So I left. I left the UK at the age of 19, 1979, gives you an indication of how old I am. And I never really went back, apart from holidays. Lived throughout Europe, mainly in Belgium. Been many things, reinvented myself half a dozen times on that journey. And currently am working as an independent trainer and coach based in the Brussels region. And yeah, here I am. I mean, there's an awful lot of details in between A and Z. I don't know how much you want to hear. The different things that I've done.
Oh, all of them.
All of them.
But we've only got an hour.
We haven't got,
No, but I think what would be interesting.
Take longer.
What would be interesting for people on the podcast, listening to the podcast, is the work that you do in the communities and stuff, and the support that you give to other people. I think that would be interesting from my point of view.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. Again, one of the things that came up last night was the red thread. When you're actually telling your story to other people, somebody who has never met you before, so it's completely new, and you go straight deep in, you sort of have to think about how you're going to sort of narrate that story. Mm-hmm. So I did actually work out last night that people are a red thread for me.
Yeah.
And so when I left school, I became a hairdresser. So that was immediately working with people, running my fingers through people's hair. That's pretty intimate. And you sort of learn pretty early on how to sort of deal with people, how to listen to people, how to make them feel comfortable, at ease, and sort of generate these conversations. So I learned a lot in those formative years, but I still considered myself pretty naive and green, even when I left England's green fields. So then I came to Belgium and sort of, I then started to develop a sort of a knack for survival, I think, sort of adapting, because I'd never really been abroad, and maybe in my naivety, I wasn't sure how it was going to all work out. all I knew then is how to cut hair. So that's what I was doing when I came abroad. But then Belgium being Belgium then, you had to sort of like, if you wanted to be involved in society as such, you had to be legal. So I had to find a real job and then do my hairdressing and other things on the side. So I decided to work at the Hotel Sheraton as a cocktail barman. So I was a cocktail barman for 3 years in the Hotel Sheraton down in Place Forgier. And that's where I started learning French and developing other skills. Yeah, sort of growing. And then I had a relationship, bought a car, got a flat, and 2 or 3 jobs. I was doing that, the hairdressing and all sorts of other things on the side. Again, people-facing work. And then I left and decided to go traveling and sort of broaden my horizons even more. So I went to live in Paris for a while, went down to Spain, went to Barcelona, Mallorca, Ibiza, sort of around all the islands. I started moving yachts around, doing beach parties, things like that. And I ended up moving one yacht to the Canaries. I was supposed to go to the Caribbean. I jumped ship in the Canaries because that was where all my friends were wintering. They'd spend the summer in Spain, mainland Spain, or on the island, Balearics, and then they'd go to the Canaries for the winter. So I jumped ship in the Canaries, worked the winter there, and then I had to decide what to do then. So I went back up to Brussels for a few months because I still had a flat there. I sublet my flat out. And then I got bored again and left again and went back down to Spain again because I knew I could find work there. So I did this for a couple of years. And then traveling around sort of up to Finland, down to Morocco, sort of across to wherever, and then back up again, always centering around Brussels. Because I found that the people that I surrounded myself in Brussels, and this is the first sense of community that I had, every time I came back, I was welcomed into their arms and supported and was able in return, as soon as I got established, to support others. So for me, Brussels has always been or given me a sense of community. And I'm still in touch with a lot of those people today, 40 years later. So that's sustained me. So I understand full well how communities can support people. And I think that people and community building has been a theme throughout whatever I've done, whether setting up clubs on the side like the Imagination Club, whether it's sort of running coffee mornings, whether it's organizing weekend cookouts. I shared a flat with this amazing Welsh guy for a couple of years, and we'd go out, even on our separate ways, drinking on a Friday and Saturday night, and we'd come across all sorts of weird and wonderful people. And individually, we'd invite them back on a Sunday, say, come round Sunday, 2:00, we'll have roast dinner for you. That was the tradition. So we never knew who was coming round, and we'd just have to guess and cook as much food as we could, and everyone would pile around on a Sunday and people would bring food. So there was always enough food. But yeah, so community building has always been a thing, something that I've been involved in, working with people. Then I got into training, got into IT training. In fact, that's how I started. And that was where it started going wrong. I think working with computers just wasn't me. And I woke up one day, 18 years later, working for this same IT consultancy, thinking, what the hell am I doing here? This is the end of 2015. So I handed in my notice and we left on pretty good terms. And I've been coaching and training on my own independently ever since. Still setting up communities, still setting up events, still working with people, working more with people than ever before, actually. But yeah, I ran pubs, I ran snooker clubs, I did cooking.
Any kind of like big raves in the big.
Yeah, we did raves. Yeah. Absolutely. Beach parties,
I attended one.
You've done it. I've run it.
Maybe I attended one back in the day. So I only went to Ibiza. I go Ibiza a couple of times. First time I went to Ibiza, I was like, oh, God, I was at high school, so I must have been around about 18, 9, coming up to that age. It was just before I joined the Air Force, and I was not a kid that fitted in. So I was never I was an in-betweener, and we heard all the stories about Ibiza. So I was born in 72. So when would this have been? Around about 91 or something like that. 90. And so I've heard all the stories about Ibiza. And so let's go to Ibiza. That'd be great. We can go party all night, take drugs. It'll be this wild party. And then we ended up in Portanax, and because we went to this thing called a square deal, which is, it's like the travel agent at that time, because this is, for the kids listening to this or watching it, the internet wasn't around back then. I know that's an amazing thing that there was a time in history where the internet didn't exist, but you had to go to a travel agent and get the travel agent to book everything. And they sold this thing called a square deal, where it's like, yeah, you'll get placed on the island somewhere, and they'll put you in a place. They'll see two young guys together, and they'll put you in this place where you can party. It was like, yeah, great, okay, it's cheaper. And we got stuck in this on the north of the island at Portanax.
Totally the wrong side.
It's like a family. Yeah, it's just all families. So we on this bus going there, and yeah, that was the first time I went, and it was a bit of a washout because we never really did any partying, because it was difficult to travel from there down to anywhere where there was a nightclub. And then the next time I went, I was kind of well into my 30s or 40s actually, and that was a different experience. That was a breakup, so I did go party that time. on top of speakers, and I was still back in my drug taking days. And so yeah, it's an interesting experience, interesting life, isn't it? I mean, when you only see that red thread when we talk about our narratives, our stories. You don't really see it until later on, do you? You obviously don't see it while it's happening.
No, I didn't realize how special it was.
Yeah. So completely not untraditional, but, not following any kind of, do you think it was following any kind of path or desire or purpose, or it was just basically, all right, hairdressing, that seems like a good idea. We'll go and do that.
And it sustained me through many, many, many a time. I've just gone and cut hair. When I first arrived in Spain, we arrived in, we got the ferry, the 8-hour ferry from Barcelona to Mallorca. So Mallorca was our first island experience. And we landed in the marina, and we got a hotel for a couple of nights. I was traveling with a friend of mine, and we started walking around the marina, boat to boat. And because where all the boats are sort of plugged into the water and electricity, they got these plastic boxes, where everything plugs into. So my clients would sit on that, I'd cut their hair. And of course, the other boats would see it. And because they don't go see land for some time, or just don't go to hairdressers or don't know where they are, it was ideal. So I would just cut enough heads, if you like, to last me that day. And then I'd go back down the next day and make more money, just as much as I needed, no more.
Mm-hmm. It's almost the same. A lot of people who live on the streets do that. They go and they just earn enough money that they need just to get them through that day. And that's, which in some way shows me that life will provide you with what you need as long as you let go of any kind of requirement. It will give you what you need to survive.
That was it. Yeah. So that was my first lesson in survival, really, I guess.
Yeah, and that survival of understanding about what life is about.
Yeah, as long as you have the basics, you don't need the trappings of, laptops and cell phones that we have these days. As long as we had food in our belly and sort of fun on the horizon, that was it.
And able to connect with people.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a serious interview in my life for a job. I've always moved from job to job to job. And even now, I'm still getting asked to work in places. And I think then, because of the contacts we made cutting hair, you always get friendly with your hairdresser. We're like a confessional, people tell us all sorts. And that's how I actually started working on boats, because you'd hear about the jobs. You'd know that at the entrance to the marina where the cafeteria was, where people met, and then sort of where they'd buy all the bits and bobs, there was a notice board there for work. So, we'd know boats were coming in, they were looking for this. And eventually me and my friend, we got a job on this boat for 5 months. That was the longest we spent on one boat. That was like a 30-meter, 100-foot motor power boat, that we sort of stayed on. And he was the chef and I was the deckhand. Amazing lifestyle we had.
Yeah. What kind of people were on the boat?
The owners of that particular boat, it was owned by 2 American guys. And they used to bring their family on. And one of the families I'm still in touch with, they're living in Seattle now, on Orca Island, just off Seattle, near Vancouver, actually. They were just regular guys, made a load of money on tin mines in South America somewhere. So they had their money in Switzerland. So every now and again, they'd go to Switzerland, get some money, come back, and then fill the petrol tank up in the boat and carry on. But we had always had visitors, always had people coming to stay on the boat, and we were just there to look after the boat and keep it safe and keep it running. And we spent 6 weeks in Barcelona getting new propellers fitted because they wanted to take the boat skiing. They wanted to ski behind the boat. It was a 100-foot boat. I mean, it's not a small motorboat. I mean, you got the money, why not? So, I mean, but that was my experience of Barcelona as well before the Olympics. I mean, it was really ramblers, So again, we were docked in the marina there, and that was like old-fashioned Barcelona. It was amazing. In the early 80s, 83, 84. It was amazing.
I imagine the atmosphere and the people was just celebrations, or was it really different from what it is now?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't clean or safe there. It was definitely a marine port, with all the prostitutes and the sort of the atmosphere and the environment that is sort of definitely didn't feel safe. I mean, again, we sort of kept guard on the boat. We were on dry dock, so you had to climb a ladder to get in the boat. So we were there for security reasons. We had ways to protect ourselves, should I say.
Mm-hmm. Back in the day where you could do things like that.
Yes.
Not that we're discounting, nostalgic for those days, but I think, there's certain kind of aspects of life that we lose in our progression, and that you think, it's a shame we've lost that aspect of society, and it's been replaced by something else. But I think every generation goes through that. There's a certain amount of loss as you get older, and there's a certain amount of seeing society change in one way. Especially if you've had a life where you've kind of experienced a lot of life. It's been experiencing a lot of life here, through the military, living abroad in the Middle East, living in Sweden, different jobs, saying, doing, different things, and just more being, just allowing. Now I look back, it was just an allowance, allowing life to happen. But the experience of it for me was quite kind of unsettling, and there's a lot of depression and anxiety. So I wasn't really in life. It sounds like you were in life while you were going through this.
Pretty much, but in life in a way that I wasn't sort of disconnected from it. But certainly there was this, I'm trying to think how to put it. It was like an element of flow. As I said, I've never really had a 5-year plan or a 1-year plan or a 1-week plan. It was day to day. I don't think that's changed that much. Of course, I've got responsibilities now. I've got kids. We're going to think about school. We're going to think about college, renting apartments for them. And my daughter's in Leuven at the moment. So I've got to be a little bit more sensible. But there's still that sense of adventure inside me.
Yeah.
That sense of wonder and curiosity and sort of weirdness.
So what was the answer to that question, then? What was the answer to the what's weird about?
What's weird about
apart from your haircutting skills? And it's like,
well, apart from everything else. Now, I think that the answer that I gave, and it wasn't really a clear answer, the answer was that I feel as though I learn differently from other people. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not categorizing it as a disability or that I'm neurologically sort of odd, but certainly I just have a different way of looking at things than I feel other people do. Hence, as I say, I know a lot of people who are ultra organized and do have a 5-year plan. And quite ironically, a lot of the workshops I have run in the past are based on helping people get to where they want to go. In fact, even coaching now. But because I feel that I'm qualified to do that because I've reinvented myself and sort of looked at a different way of doing things rather than the classic way. So I feel I've got a unique sort of perspective on that. So that's what I think's odd about me or weird about me and different. And not in certainly not an arrogant way or anything. Just I just see things differently. I wouldn't say it was better either, just differently.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think an experience here is seeing things in a different way, and sometimes it's frustrating for me when I see things that other people can't see.
Yeah.
Like, well, why can't you see it that way? It's I've done my own kind of neurodiverse tests and things like that, so I know where I am on a spectrum, should we say. I'm definitely at one side of it, and much of my life journey has been trying to not counter the effects of being on that side of the spectrum, but to understand humans and human behavior and emotions so that I could work it out, because I couldn't work it out at the beginning. And then now I can, and now I mean, it's not you can't work it out. It's just that you could see it, and you're just like, well, why would you think or be like that? It's just I can't understand how people can see life in a certain way. Yeah, and it was just always a little bit like that. And I recognize that it's not like I don't have a plan or an idea or direction of where I want to go. It's more like, okay, I don't really have a to-do list. Like I say, I have responsibilities because I own a business and I've got to manage people. And part of it is that sometimes I miss stuff, and it's like, because I don't really want to keep a to-do list around. It kind of frustrates me as well. So I don't do that. I just let things happen. But then it works out. Today I missed something in the business, and one of the people that work with me went, "Oh, I've just solved this problem." Oh, okay, cool. I didn't really need to get stressed about it. It worked itself out. Most things don't need you to get involved in them.
No, I mean, I do have to work at that as well. I mean, I've started, I suppose, with all the knowledge that I've gained over the year, trying to work out other people and trying to work out myself as well at the same time. I think that's a journey that I've been on, certainly. Learning to read people, especially running bars. I think that was a skill where you observe people as they go turn more and more drunk. You have to find out where their limits are. And I think it's enabled me to be a better people reader. But going back onto your sort of being organized, as I said, I haven't had a 5-year plan, but I do try to make my days as organized as possible. But like you, I miss things. Things go, and as you say, things do get solved. There's no point getting hooked up on the minutiae of life. It'll sort itself out,
Yeah, it will. I mean, it'll sort itself. It's almost like you're not in control of it.
Yeah.
It's like
we're not in control. We can't control the weather. We can't control other people. We can't control emotions, our reactions, whatever. So much we can't control. Let go of that shit.
Let go of it.
It's like this recording, Gary. It's like the link.
Exactly. The link is just like,
it's okay. It's just a link. Doesn't matter. We can start late. We can start. It doesn't matter. But it's true of letting go. I mean, my experience of traveling around the world, and I came to many a crossroads. Where do I go next? Well, left or right doesn't really matter. I'm just going to have fun, see where it takes me, and that was my planning for the day. It was like, okay, and then you go in a bar. I was in a cafe bar once in New Zealand on the South Island. I meet this guy, and he says, I need 2 guys to help me clear some space in the forest. Well, okay, what have you got to clear? And then he explained he's got a 300-litre tank to collect water on his land at the top of the mountain. It's going to come by helicopter, but we've got to clear the space in the rainforest so that the helicopter can drop it in. And wow, what an experience of working there for a week. Yeah. All you guys got to do is just clear the space. I'll feed you and I'll give you beers, whatever. What a life, for 1
why
week.
not?
Why not? Let's do it. Just a great and the conversations you get and the people and time flew by, but also time wasn't really there. It was just as though it stopped as well, because you were just deep in conversation. You were focusing, as you say, on that moment in doing the work for the day. And then we carried on enjoying life. It was amazing. Just that one experience. I always reflect on it. It was just a fantastic period of, got to be organized to do this, got to be focused, but boy, at the same time,
But it's all about being open to that as well. I think that opportunities, I'm not saying that they happen to everybody. They don't. I know a lot of people who struggle. But I think there is, and I don't necessarily believe in, the secret, whatever you call it, the power of...
the law of attraction.
Law of attraction, really, in many ways. Having said that, I think that you have to be open to experience. You have to be open to life, being in the right place at the right time. Somebody else might have been sat in the same cafe as you, Richard, and sort of not been offered that. You have to be receptive to those sort of offers and opens and talk to people.
Yeah.
You never know. I love the word serendipity. You never know what's going to happen out of any conversation you have with anybody in the world at any particular given moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something, the law of attraction, that kind of I mean, it's not that I believe in it either, but it's more like, I'm a yoga teacher now, and I'm into my spirituality, but there's that common thread in all spiritual teachings, which is like you reap what you sow, karma. It's more, the law of attraction is more like that. It's like, oh, if I'm open to opportunity, if I'm open to experience, if I'm open to life, then life will give me what I need. But it's not going to be, I need to think really hard and I'll get a Ferrari or a Maserati or a nice house in the Hamptons, or, a really nice partner that's beautiful and handsome or whatever. That's not how it works.
No.
How it works is that life is designed for you to grow and thrive. And essentially, that's what it's meant to do. And if you're open to that possibility, then it will give you what you need. And I know how sometimes that sounds, because there's three privileged white guys on a podcast here talking about this in the Western society. But it happens across the world in all societies, at all levels of society, at all levels of society. It's not just because we happen to be in a privileged position. Our privileged position just gave us a different starting point in life. But it happens to everybody. There are countless stories of people living this way and getting a full and fulfilled life. There's a guy, I've forgotten his name now, maybe I'll remember it, but he basically just gave up money and just lived in a cave, but he gets everything he needs. It's just
this is it. It's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
There's a classic story that I told. I gave a workshop on happiness, which I investigated thoroughly. I studied and did a couple of courses on the science behind happiness. And one of the stories that came up illustrated this. The mindset of that was, in a really ancient village, there was this old man sitting at the entrance to the wall. It was a walled city, had a wall around it with gates, and people would come in and out the gates. And he was sitting there, and he had this game in front of him, and he was waiting for someone to come and play with him, whether a stranger or whether a friend. And this guy was walking from one town to another down the main road into the town through the gates. And as he passed the gates, he nodded to the man and said, can I ask you a question? And the old man said, yeah, of course you can. And he said, what are the people like in this town? I'm new here, I'm a stranger. And the old man asked him, well, what were the people like in the town you've just left? And he said, well, they weren't very nice, they weren't very friendly, that's why I left. And the old man said, well, you'll find similar people here. So the guy went off, and then another guy came along and sort of stopped in front of the old man and says, hey, old man, can I ask you a question? And the old man said, yes, please do. I've got all day. And the guy said, what are the people like in this town? I'm a stranger, I'm new here. And the old man asked him the same question as he'd asked the other guy. He said, well, what were the people like in the town you've just left? And he said, oh, they were really friendly. They were really great. They gave me food. They gave me shelter. I found it hard to leave, but I'm really interested in meeting a lot of new people. And the old man said, you'll find the same people here. So it's a mindset wherever we go. Mm-hmm. However we are as a person, we're more likely to connect and meet with people that are like us. And so it's a mindset for me. I think that was an illustration of how we can have the life that we want by being a particular way. If we're going to be miserable, we're going to meet miserable people.
Yeah. No, that is definitely, I mean, I spent a lot of my life being miserable.
And he still is, everyone.
I still am, I face like a smacked ass. No, and people used to, my family say, oh, you're grumpy all the time, and I used to rant against it. I'm not bloody grumpy, I'm not grumpy. But I was, I've had my life, and I've had a certain experience, and that's just how it was for a certain amount of time. But there was always this drive for me trying to work out what was wrong with me, in inverted commas, because there wasn't anything wrong with me, but I just felt that there was something wrong with me. I just felt that I was broken. I had my trauma, and I went through healing that and coming out the other side of it. So that was the drive and the thread in my life. When I tell my life story, it's about that. It's about trauma, through that, getting out of it, coming to a place of peace and serenity, and seeing the truth of what you're explaining. And some people are able to have that, and I was always envious of it in some way. I was like, oh, why can't look at them? It's not that they're any way kind of different from you, but they just seem to be open and friendly. And it's like, why can't I be like that? And it wasn't until I started being like that it's like, oh, okay, people are open and friendly. And as long as I'm open and friendly, that people are open and friendly back. And yes, now and again, you get the person that is completely closed and they are, they're all in their anxiety and their stress and their frustration and their anger, and then still be open and friendly because it's like, well, okay, because then you can't touch me. There's nothing to hook onto here. As long as I'm open and friendly, and if you're angry, it's like, okay, you're angry, then fine. But that can all stay over there. I don't need any of it. You get that a lot in the work I do with running yoga studios. I had it even yesterday with somebody who was quite angry about something, and it's like, oh right, that's it. I'm not practicing with your yoga studio anymore. Okay, thank you for letting us know. Much love. It was the response back.
Yeah.
And there's nothing people can do with that, because it's like, I can't grab that. I can't fight myself against it. And for me now, that's the way you need to be. Just open, friendly, non-violence. It's a way to be in the world.
Yeah, the honesty and the truth also. Just
exactly.
Being clear with them and saying, okay, thanks. So it doesn't work out for you.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Let's move on.
Killing with kindness.
It's even interesting though, the language we use for that is also a violence-based language, isn't it? We kill people with kindness, but I suppose what we're talking about is killing the idea of yourself, not the physical body. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm interested to know more about hairdressing. I don't know why. It's just
more about hairdressing.
Just know that whole, because sometimes I go to hairdressers, and I went to one recently, and it was just like
I'd go back and get your money back.
Yeah.
You haven't finished the job, Gary.
Yeah. I had it cut the first time in a year, right?
Wow.
So, but this is what happens with hairdressers. This is interesting because I went to, I think it's interesting, all that matters really. I went to hairdressers like a year ago, so in October, and I've been growing my hair for 6 months because I always wanted long hair. Right, I'm gonna grow my hair now. My wife ranted against it. I was like, hold on a second, my hair, I'm growing my hair long. So I grew it long, and I went to a hairdresser's, and I had that moment where they started cutting, and they cut too much of it, and they really cut. It went all the way back. I just lost 6 months of growth in one sitting. I was so angry, and I was angry too. And I was running a retreat, and I was coming back from the retreat, and I was like there with a sore head, and my wife's like, "Yeah, well, why are you angry?" I was like, "It's like Samson. They've cut off my hair, and I've lost all my power." It's like, are you listening to yourself, Gary? You listen to what you're saying, but it's just there was that moment where I realized it, but I just didn't say anything. I was like, well, that's just weird. Why didn't I just say, oh, whoa, stop. I said, I don't want you to cut. I wanted this, just a small amount off, please, because I'm trying to grow it. I just want you to take the ends off. And so after that experience, I stopped. I said, right, I'm not cutting it for a year. And I kept that promise. And I went to a new hairdresser's, and it was there was no kind of, it was just a weird kind of environment. There was no openness.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can sit and not talk to my hairdresser, but sometimes you want to have a conversation with them, like you say.
Where have you been on holiday this year?
Yeah. That is that your opening line? Was your opening line?
I vow never, ever, ever to say that. Yeah.
I go the other way now. I'm just like, so who are you? Because that throws them as a question. I'm like, huh? What?
What's weird about you?
Yeah, what's weird about you?
I've got long hair. Okay. So
exactly. No, so I mean, but people open up to you sometimes as a hairdresser, don't they? It's like hairdressers. Who else do people open up to? People open up.
The bar
people. Bar staff.
Amazing stories I've heard and jokes,
yoga teachers,
and tricks I've learned. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So I think that's why I enjoy people, because in actual fact, another one of the questions that we were asking last night is, are you more introvert and extrovert? In actual fact, I'm quite introvert, unless I feel more sort of it's not control, but certainly if I feel as I'm in my space and can be myself rather than trying to fit in with other people's expectations, I can be me, and I'm a bit more extrovert then. Otherwise, I can be really shy. I can be a wallflower in a big sort of event when there's thousands of people I don't know, and so I don't know what they expect of me, if anything. But if I'm in a place where I know people, I can be sort of like the life and soul of the party, which I had to be if I was running a pub. But I think that restaurant work, serving people, bar work, starting off as a cocktail barman, you're there. And because it was a 5-star hotel at that time, I think we had to have this certain persona. But the conversations we had, because these people are going to a hotel and they're lonely, they need to sort of have some realism in their conversations. I wasn't just a barman. And the relationships you set up with, for example, we had a pianist in there playing piano all the time. And I used to get to know them really well because when it wasn't busy, I'd stand there chatting to the pianist. So I built up some relationships with people that I'd never really experienced before. And that was really fascinating. So I think learning to connect with people as a hairdresser helped me. Then learning it as a barman, sort of serving people, being there for people, training people, finding out what their needs are. Can I adapt my training to serve you better? So all my life has been about that, really, I suppose, connecting with people and sort of, giving them the same opportunities almost that I've had.
Which, as you're saying that, what comes up is that is the reason that you now do so much in terms of community building.
Yes.
Because it's all those skills.
Yes.
All those skills.
I'm just using the skills that I have, because it comes easily, fairly easily to me.
Yeah. It's kind of like a full circle, is that you know, in some way, even from being a hairdresser at the beginning, that is community building. You know, you are a center of a community of people that come to you to have their haircut. And you know, everybody likes to get their haircut and look good and feel good about themselves when they leave. So, you know, there's no difference to that to probably what you're doing right now. It's the same thing.
Yeah, there's certainly a crossover link, because I think I learned so much about people and myself being a hairdresser. People would come in and they'd want the classic haircuts, or they'd want a perm, or they'd want colouring. I did a lot of colouring for a while as well. I entered a lot of competitions, won prizes, did an awful lot of different things, fashion shows. At that time, Brighton was building its marina, so I did a lot of fashion shows on boats down in the marina there. That's probably my first fascination with boats, working with models. But there was also the really weird people that wouldn't wash their hair or anything in between going to hairdressers. There was people that wanted weird cuts. They wanted it longer on one side, short on the other, make it look really messy. They didn't want a classic cut. And then there's others that really did, and we was quite innovative. So there was an awful lot going on, meeting an awful lot of different public out there, people that I'd come from my small town where I was just used to the people around me. All of a sudden I was opened up to Brighton, and all of its sort of multicultural, multicolour sort of people coming in, and sort of like it was mind-blowing, really. So
it's seeing all these different labels and identities that these people create, and you kind of adapting accordingly. When they sit in that chair, okay, you're trying to not make a synopsis of who they are, but you're trying to figure out what they are, what the style is, etc. And then you see from their clothing, etc. And you kind of get a bit of an idea, but then you're trying to be open at the same time to see what else would they interested in changing, and what would they be looking for, especially when you're cutting their hair.
Yeah, and also interpreting what they mean as well. Yeah. And that's something that's coming through now. I often ask people, well, what do you mean by that word? Because it might not mean the same thing to me. And I think that's something in conversations that people miss or misinterpret or miscommunication, because we don't have or attach the same meanings to words and phrases and sentences that we use. So I think that's something that I've learned over the years, and that started in hairdressing, So what is it you want? Oh, just cut it short. Same as I had it last time. I can't remember. I've done 100 people since then. And they'd come in and show me a picture and say, I want it like this. I thought, your hair won't do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I want it like Messi, so I want it like this football player, or I want it like this pop star.
Absolutely, yes, we had all that. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Farrah Fawcett Majors was the biggest one when I was
That's interesting that we do that, don't we? We put somebody on a pedestal over there, and it's like, well, if I have something of them, and it could be their hairstyle, in somehow way it makes me them. brings me something that they have that I want.
That's marketing. That's how
Yeah.
marketing works. Sure.
It's like shine a light. Let's be like Ronaldo. Let's shine a light on
Yeah,
me.
it's
Now
like
with
selling
that.
cars with beautiful women over the hoods. If I have a big car, I'll get beautiful women. If I drink beer, I'll
Yeah.
be manly. If I do this, I'll be
Yeah, pure marketing.
Yeah.
Pure marketing.
marketing.
Pure marketing, yeah. It is. And yeah, it's something that we struggle with in the yoga industry. It's it's trying how do you position yourself without selling something that you're not selling. But it's very difficult because people project it onto you, even if you don't want
Yes.
to do it. People will put something on you, and you're like, no, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do something different. But it's just you can't help how people project stuff onto you.
This is one of the things that we can't control. We cannot control how other people are, how they react, who they are, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was a big lesson I learned. I think I've talked to Richard about this before, about accepting my brother for who he is. I will never, ever, ever change him. It took me like 60 years. It's me that's got to change, not him. I can't control how he is, who he is, but I can control myself.
Can you expand on that? Is that something you'd be willing to expand on?
No, it was just sort of my relationship that I had with my brother. As a man, he's 2 years older than me. And so I guess you always look up to your older brother. It was only when I worked out, I thought, hold on, I'm looking up to a guy who hasn't got a clue. So that changed the relationship. And he just never got me. And to give you a concrete example, I would drive back to the UK. I'd work all night, for example, working in bars. And I'd sort of remember one weekend, I thought, okay, I'll work till 6 and I'll leave then because traffic's light. And I'll drive through the night. And I arrived at my mum's house, and he was living somewhere else at that time. But he'd turned up with his big Alsatian dog and his kids, whatever. So it was like just before lunchtime when I got there, and I was exhausted. And the dog wouldn't let me in the house. But he was insisting that he wanted to meet me. I said, all I want to do is sleep. Please come round later. But I couldn't even get into my mum's house because the dog was barking at me because it was a stranger. I was a stranger, I was just so tired. He just never left me alone and would understand what I needed. He never got me. He'd always try, and I'd go across with my family, my 2 kids and my wife, and he'd say, all right, let's go out for a pint tonight. I said, well, I'm here with my family. Yes, let's all go out. Let's do something together. But no, he wanted to take me away from my family. I'm not just going to dump my family with my mum and go out to the pub. I mean, yeah, sure, we can do for a couple of pints, but he wanted sort of like to take me off and play with me as a new toy or something almost, he just never got me.
Yeah. I suppose in some way though, he was trying to get you to get him.
Absolutely, yeah. There was no maliciousness there. It was totally not.
Yeah.
But
this is how I am. I want you to come into my world.
Yeah.
But I understand it because with family, my own family. There was at one point when I realized, I'm the black sheep, and you just go, oh, I'm the black sheep. Oh shit. Okay.
I thought it was you.
Yeah, I did, and I thought it was other people in the family. It's like, because they might just go nasty judgmental phase. So I was like, oh right. And then once I worked it out, I was like, oh okay, cool. And I realized I didn't need them to love and accept me anymore, because I'd wanted that all of my life from them. It's like, accept me for who I am, because I'd always been different. I'd always been kind of seeing life in a different way. They're a kind of normal kind of Southeast London family, and in some way I am that kind of cultural person, but it's like, oh, okay, you don't get me. And even with my own relationship with my mother, she just doesn't get me. And it's difficult not to be seen by somebody that you love.
Being seen is very important, and the penny dropped actually after a conversation with my mum. I was probably complaining to my mum about it, and she said, well, he's different. I thought, oh yeah. And that was the day it changed for me. I thought, he's just different. He's just him.
Yeah.
It's not him that I can change. I have no control over him. It's my reaction that I can change towards him. And from that day on, great.
Yeah.
Penny dropped, as they say.
Penny dropped. It took a long while, but the penny dropped.
60 years
it takes a long while. No, exactly. It's 40 something for me. It's only recently in the last few years that I've realized that in the young relationship with my mother. And it's not to say it still doesn't frustrate you. It still doesn't, you still go those times, especially when you're emotionally tired and you're just like, oh. really, and I still bark a little bit. But yeah, there was a realization that, oh, okay, she just doesn't see who I am. And the biggest realization that happened was very recently when I was back at my in the UK, and I was showing up as I am. It's like I was happy, I was loving everybody, I was like, yay, hey, well, and she still didn't see me, and it was all still about her rather than me. It was still like, oh, you're happy with everyone else. It's like, but I'm also happy with you because I'm happy with everybody here. And it was always like this, I can't see you in that way because it would invalidate my own vision of myself, of who I am. So and that was when the penny dropped, and I was just like, oh, it's not me. It's you are seeing it's you, and I can't change that, and I can't change what's happening here either. So there's a kind of a letting go of it.
It's hugely important. I ran a workshop yesterday, and one of the things that came up in it, I must write a post about it. And I made a note about it this morning in a conversation with my wife. We're talking about being heard, and her words were afterwards were, it's not only important to be heard, but show me I have been heard. And I think yesterday, the workshop I gave people space to vent their spleen, to be able to talk about them. But if nothing happens after that, what was the point of it? Okay, it's nice to be able to sort of say your piece and express, to feel a little bit heard, but I think there has to be a follow-up, and that's what I'm concerned about now, that I'm going to work out my next step, how to help them, show them that they've been heard as well. So I don't know how to do that, but it's not for me to hear them, it's for their bosses to hear them, So being heard is hugely important as a person, for men especially.
Definitely.
For men especially, but I think everyone is in general, but for men especially, because we're in that kind of world
image we have to protect.
Yeah, it's an image. It's that world of image. This is who we are. This is it. But we all share. But deep down, we want to be heard as well, and we want to be seen as well.
I'm a man. Hear me roar.
Yeah, but there's no roar.
No. Hear me as I am.
All right. I've got long hair now. That's my entering my lion phase. My life.
Was that your lion?
It's my lion. It's my mane. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have it like buzz cut, and that was not good for me. Somebody once said he looks like he's just come out of a concentration camp. What is he?
Not a good look. Benjamin Button. Yeah,
exactly. And there was the curtains as well. When I was little curtains I had back in the 80s and 90s.
But I don't think you can beat me because I had a perm. There you go.
You had a perm.
I had a perm. I was called Curly, go get the ball when I played rugby. I was the quickest player on the field, and I always got was Curly, go and get the ball.
Oh dear me, perm. Did you?
I had a big perm. It was like a big microphone on top of my head. I tell you, it was so funny. There you go. You see, you have these images.
You just can't carry on.
That'll be tasty eyes, guys.
Oh, well, we've been chatting for an hour. So, I mean, I feel like this is one of those conversations that could just keep going and going and going. We'll find out another facet of your experience, which is
all these little nuggets of Andy.
All these little nuggets,
yeah.
I think for me...
You read it in my book.
Yeah, okay. You want to plug it now?
I've got a book.
I've got a book. Not yet, anyway. I think for me, the sort of takeaway from the conversation is just that for me, it sounds like your life is just that example of, you don't have to follow the rules. You don't have to follow what people say you should do. It's not about going to university, getting a degree, getting your little box in suburbia, marrying, or whatever, or having a partner, or, it's just, that's not what life is about. Life is just about letting it happen and living it and seeing where it takes you. Because although you've returned to Belgium all the time, I don't think when you were 19 cutting hair, you ever thought that you'd be on the journey to here on Wednesday, the 20th of October at 11 o'clock.
No. So I don't know what tomorrow will bring either, or the rest of today.
Exactly. Yeah, but no idea. It's it's just you wake up and say, okay, and then we can have some idea of like what we're going to do. It's like, I don't know how it's going to turn out today. And it could turn out brilliantly, and sometimes you get something and it's just like, oh, I didn't see that one coming. But
absolutely, and I think every time we hang on to something, that's when the danger is, because it can be taken away from you. Don't rely on other people as a source of your own happiness.
Exactly.
True. Very true. great ending to the conversation, Andy.
Indeed. So
Much appreciated.
Thanks for popping on. And,
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for letting me
ramble.
Give you some verbal diarrhea. Ramble on.
That will be cut out, everyone. So don't.
Yeah, don't worry. The beginning and the end.
Beginning and the end.
Indeed.
No, really appreciate it.
Less said about the middle, the better.
Thanks again.
Keep on doing what you're doing, guys.
We do.